I hadn't seen David in almost 10 years, and I planned to keep it that way. So when I walked into the glass-walled conference room on Monday morning, coffee in one hand, nerves already tight from starting a new job, the last person I expected to see standing at the head of the table was him. David, my former school rival. The guy who made my teenage years hell. The one person on this planet who knew the one secret I'd spent my entire adult life burying. And now, he was my boss. He stood there in a tailored navy suit like he belonged there, confident, relaxed, one hand resting on the chair beside him. He looked older, obviously, but not in a bad way. Broader shoulders, sharper jaw, that same calm, unreadable expression that used to drive me insane back in school. Our eyes met. I felt it instantly. That jolt, that drop in my stomach. His eyebrows lifted just a fraction. Not surprise, recognition, and something else. "Good morning," he said, voice smooth, controlled. "You must be Christopher." The way he said my name, slow, deliberate, told me everything. He remembered. I forced my feet to move, took the empty chair near the end of the table. My pulse was loud in my ears. Around us, the rest of the team shuffled papers, murmured greetings, completely unaware that my past had just walked back into my life wearing a company badge. David launched into his introduction like nothing was wrong. "I'll be leading this department going forward," he said. "My expectations are simple. I value honesty, performance, and discretion." That last word landed heavier than it should have. Discretion. My throat went dry. Back in high school, David and I were enemies by default. Same grades, same classes, same teachers constantly comparing us. He was popular, athletic, effortlessly confident. I was quieter, smarter on paper, always one step behind socially. We competed over everything. And then there was the locker room incident. The one memory I'd never been able to fully erase. I was 17, scared, confused, still pretending I was straight. I thought I was alone that afternoon, hiding in the corner, trying to calm myself down after catching feelings I didn't understand. I hadn't known David was still there. He'd seen everything. He never outed me, never said a word. But from that day on, something shifted between us. The rivalry sharpened. His looks lingered longer. His comments got quieter, more personal, like he was holding something over me, or maybe holding himself back. We graduated. I moved away. I came out years later on my own terms. And now here he was, my boss. After the meeting, people filtered out in small groups. I stayed seated, pretending to review notes, hoping, stupidly, that David would leave first. He didn't. "Christopher," he said once the room was empty. I looked up. He was closer now, leaning against the table, arms crossed. The air between us felt heavy, charged in a way that had nothing to do with work. "I didn't know you were joining my team," he said. Neither did I. Almost snapped. Instead, I kept my voice neutral. Small world. A corner of his mouth twitched. "You always did undersell things." Silence stretched between us. My heart hammered as 1,000 thoughts raced through my head. Was he going to bring it up? The past? My secret? He studied me openly now, no attempt to hide it. "You look good," he said finally. I stiffened. "Thanks. So do you." Another pause. Then, quietly, "Don't worry. What happened back then stays back then." Relief flooded me so fast it was almost dizzying. But then he added, softer, more dangerous. "At least for now." My breath caught. He straightened. "All business again. I'll see you in my office later." One-on-one check-in. As he walked out, I realized something unsettling. David wasn't just my boss. He had power over my career, and a secret that could still unravel me if he chose to use it. And the worst part? A small, traitorous part of me wondered if he was going to. David's office was exactly what you'd expect. Glass walls, minimalist desk, city skyline behind him like a flex. Everything clean, intentional, like he'd stripped his life down to only what he could control, which, unfortunately, included me. "Close the door," he said when I stepped inside. Not harsh, not threatening, just final. I did, and the soft click echoed louder than it should have. He didn't sit right away. Instead, he walked past me to the window, hands in his pockets, looking out over the city like this was any other Monday. Like he hadn't just detonated my sense of stability, by existing again. So, he said back still turned. Christopher. I swallowed. David. I got a quiet huff of a laugh. Still formal. You were always like that. Even when we were kids. I leaned against the chair across from his desk, not trusting my legs fully. You didn't call me in here to reminisce. No, he agreed. I didn't. He turned then, eyes locking onto mine with that same unreadable intensity from years ago. Only now it felt heavier, sharper, like he knew exactly how much space he was taking up in my head. I want to be clear, he said. I didn't hire you because I knew you. That surprised me. You didn't. I didn't know it was you until HR finalized everything. A beat, but I didn't stop it either. That was worse. And why's that? I asked, tried to keep my voice steady. David moved behind his desk and finally sat, fingers lacing together. Because you were always good, smart, driven, even back then. Back then, the words pulled something tight in my chest. You hated me, I said before I could stop myself. His eyes flickered, just slightly. No, he said. I didn't. Silence settled between us again. Thicker this time. I let out a breath. Look, whatever this is, I just want to do my job. I don't want special treatment, he finished. Yes. And you don't want me holding anything over you, he added calmly. My jaw tightened. Exactly. David studied me for a long moment, then nodded once. Fair. He reached for a folder and slid it across the desk. Your first assignment. Tight deadline. High visibility. If you mess it up, I won't protect you. I met his gaze. And if I don't, another pause. Then you prove you belong here, he said. On your own. I stood, picking up the folder. That's all I'm asking. As I turned to leave, his voice stopped me. Christopher. I looked back. His expression had softened. Not by much, but enough that I noticed. Enough that it unsettled me. You ever wonder, he said quietly, what would have happened if things were different back then? My heart skipped. That's not relevant, I said. Maybe not, he replied. But it still matters. I left before he could say anything else. For the rest of the week, I bury myself in work. Late nights, early mornings. I avoided David whenever possible, keeping everything strictly professional. Emails, meetings, nothing personal, but I felt him watching. In meetings, his eyes lingered just a second longer on me than anyone else. When I spoke, he listened, really listened. When others talked, he seemed half distracted. And then came Friday. I was the last one in the office, staring at my screen, running through the presentation one final time when I heard footsteps behind me. Still here. I turned. David. Jacket off. Sleeves rolled up. No dia. Almost done, I said. He glanced at the clock. It's after 9. Deadlines don't care. That earned a small smile. No, they don't. He stepped closer, leaning against the desk beside mine. Too close. I could smell his cologne, subtle, familiar in a way that made my chest tighten. You've changed, he said. So have you, I replied. He nodded. I think about that day sometimes. I froze. You said, I know what I said. He interrupted softly. And I meant it. I won't out you. I won't use it against you. I turned fully to face him. Then why bring it up? Because, he said, eyes locked on mine, I never told anyone either. The air shifted. I didn't tell because I knew how scared you were, he continued. And because I wasn't as straight as everyone thought. My breath caught. That doesn't change anything, I said, though my voice betrayed me. Maybe not, he agreed. But it explains why I remember it the way I do. Silence stretched, charged, and dangerous. David straightened. Go home, Christopher. Get some rest. Big day Monday. As he walked away, I realized something terrifying. The past wasn't buried. It was awake, and it was standing a lot closer than I was ready for. Monday came faster than I wanted it to. I barely slept all weekend. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw David leaning against my desk, sleeves rolled up, voice low as he admitted something I never expected to hear. I wasn't as straight as everyone thought. That sentence followed me into the office like a ghost. The presentation went flawlessly. I barely remembered giving it, just flashes, David watching from the end of the table, arms crossed, expression unreadable. When I finished, there was a brief silence before he nodded once. Good work, he said. Not praise, not warmth, but approval. And that somehow felt more intimate than anything else. After the meeting, my inbox pinged. David, my office. 6 p.m. No explanation. All day, my stomach stayed tight. I told myself it was about feedback, next steps, normal boss stuff. But I'd stopped believing in coincidences where David was concerned. At 5:58, I stood outside his door, hand hovering before knocking. Come in, he said before I touched it. Of course. The city outside his window was dark now, lights glowing beneath low clouds. He'd loosened his tie again, jacket draped over the chair. The room felt quieter than usual, more private. He gestured to the chair. Seat. I did. He slid a document across the desk. Senior leadership like your work. A lot. My pulse jumped. That's good. It is, he said, which is why I need to know something. Here it was. Can you handle pressure? I frowned. I think I've proven. I don't mean deadlines. His gaze sharpened. I mean me. The words landed heavy. I'm your boss, he continued. There are boundaries, rules, lines we don't cross. I nodded slowly. Agreed. And yet, he said, leaning back, we both know things are complicated. I hesitated. They don't have to be. David's mouth curved slightly. That's what you said in school, too. My chest tightened. You remember everything. Yes, he said quietly. Ido. Silence stretched. Not awkward. Charged. You're out now, he said. Confident. Grounded. You don't hide the way you used to. I looked down. I learned how to survive. And I learned how to regret, he said. They made me look up. For years, David continued, voice steady but lower now. I wondered what would have happened if I'd been braver. Kinda. If I'd said something instead of turning everything into a competition. You were awful to me, I said before I could soften it. I know. And you liked having power, I added. He didn't deny it. I still do. The honesty in that sent a chill through me. But I don't want power over you, he said. I want clarity. About what? He stood, slowly, circling the desk until he was standing in front of me. Too close. Close enough that I could see the faint crease between his brows, smell that familiar cologne again. About whether this tension is one-sided, he said. My heart pounded. This is dangerous, I whispered. Yes, he agreed, which is why I haven't touched you. His hand lifted, stopped inches from my arm. But I want... The room felt like it was shrinking. David, my voice came out rough. If this crosses a line, tell me to stop, he said immediately. And I will. I searched his face. No esmirk. No manipulation. Just want. Years old. Suppressed. Back with teeth. I didn't tell him to stop. Instead, I stood. We were eye level now. Breath to breath. You still have power, I said. You're my boss. And you still have the secret, he replied. Which means neither of us is clean here. My heart raced. This doesn't end well. No, he said softly. But it starts honestly. His fingers brushed my wrist. Barely there. Electric. Dinner, he said. Public place. No expectations. If at any point you want out, we walk away. I swallowed. Just dinner. Just dinner, he echoed. As I nodded, his hand dropped away, restraint snapping back into place. But as I left his office, I knew the truth. The rivalry was gone. The secret was still there. And whatever was growing between us, it wasn't something either of us could pretend was harmless anymore. I told myself it was just dinner. That's what I repeated while I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, adjusting my jacket for the third time. Not a date. Not anything reckless. Just two adults eating food in a public place like normal, emotionally stable people. Which was a lie, and I knew it. The restaurant David picked was quiet, but not intimate enough to raise eyebrows. Dim lighting, soft music, the kind of place where conversation stayed private without feeling secretive. When I walked in, he was already there, standing as soon as he saw me. That alone did something to my chest. You look good, he said, not casually this time. Noble fare. No distance. Thanks, I replied. So do you. He smiled, really smiled. And for the first time, I saw a version of David that didn't feel guarded or competitive. Just present. We sat. Ordered drinks. The first few minutes were careful, neutral, work adjacent, safe. Then the wine came. I used to think about you a lot, David said suddenly. I froze mid-sip. That's not exactly easing the tension. I'm not trying to, he replied calmly. I'm done pretending. I set my glass down. Okay, then let's be honest. His eyes held mine. Good. I hated you, I said, but I also watched you constantly. I measure myself against you. I cared way more than I should have. He nodded. Same. That surprised me. You terrified me, he continued, because you saw me, not the version everyone else did, the one who didn't fit. I exhaled slowly. You could have been kind. I know, he said, and I regret that more than you think. The words settled between us, heavy but sincere. After dinner, we stood outside the restaurant, neither of us reaching for our phones, neither in a rush to leave. This is where we stop, I said quietly. If we don't, things change. David stepped closer, close enough that the city noise faded. They already have. I'm serious. So am I, he said, which is why I'm not touching you. A beat. But I'm thinking about it, he added, honest to the core. My pulse jumped. Come over, he said then. Not tonight. Another time. When you're ready. No pressure. I searched his face for manipulation. Found none. Okay, I said. His expression softened like I'd just given him something precious. At work, the shift was subtle but unmistakable. He was still professional, maybe even more so, but there was something different in the air. Awareness. Gravity. And then came the conference trip. 2 days. Same hotel. When I stepped into the elevator and saw David already inside, tie loosened, phone in hand, something inside me snapped into clarity. This wasn't about power anymore. It was about choice. Our eyes met. The doors slid shut. Long day, he said. Very. Silence. Thick. As the elevator climbed, his hand brushed mine. This time, neither of us pulled away. The elevator doors opened too soon. David stepped out first, then paused, glancing back at me like he was checking whether I was still there or whether I was about to disappear like I had years ago. Room 1408, he said casually. Same floor. Of course it was. The conference was a blur. Panels, handshakes, forced smiles. I spoke when needed, nodded when expected, but the only thing my mind kept circling back to was the knowledge that David was just a few doors down from me. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, phone face down on the nightstand like it might burn a hole through the wood if I touched it. At 11:17 p.m., it buzzed anyway. David, you awake? I stared at the screen longer than I should have. Me, yeah. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. David, I won't come over unless you ask. My heart thudded. This was the line. The real one. Not implied. Not accidental. Clear and deliberate. I sat up, running a hand through my hair. Me, I'm thinking. Seconds passed. David, take all the time you need. That was what did it. Not the tension. Not the history. Not the attraction. The respect. Me, okay. You can come over. There was a pause, just long enough to tell me he was steadying himself too. Then a knock. Soft. Controlled. I opened the door, and there he was. No yakit. Sleeves rolled up. Same man who ran meetings with ease. Now standing in my doorway, like he was waiting for permission to exist in my space. You sure? He asked. Yes, I said. I stepped back, letting him in. The door closed quietly behind him. For a moment, we just stood there. No ruse. No hands. No pretending this was casual. You know, I said softly, if this goes wrong, it could ruin everything. David nodded. And if it goes right, it changes everything. I took a breath. You don't get to be my boss in here. His eyes darkened just slightly. Good. He moved closer, slow enough that I could stop him at any point. When his hand finally rested on my waist, it felt earned. Intentional. Like every second of restraint before mattered. Christopher, he murmured, forehead resting against mine. I wanted you back then. I just didn't know how to want you without hating myself for it. My chest tightened. You hurt me. I know, he said. I don't want to hurt you now. Then don't disappear, I whispered. I won't. The kiss was gentle, almost cautious, like we were both relearning how to touch without armor. And when it deepened, it wasn't about dominance or revenge or power. It was about relief. Later, lying side by side, city lights spilling across the bed, David spoke quietly into the dark. I never forgot your secret, he said, but it stopped being leverage a long time ago. I turned toward him. Then what was it? A reminder, he said, that you trusted me without meaning to. I exhaled slowly. For the first time since walking into that conference room weeks ago, the weight in my chest eased. The rivalry was gone. The secret was safe. And my boss? He was sleeping next to me. Finally honest, finally human. I woke up before David. That alone felt strange. Morning light slipped through the gap in the curtains, painting his face softer than I'd ever seen it. No suit, no armor, just sleep. Just a man who, for once, wasn't in control of everything. For a second, panic flickered in my chest. What the hell did we just do? Work, HR, power imbalance, regret. Then David stirred, blinking himself awake, and the way his eyes immediately found me grounded everything. Hey, he murmured, voice rough with sleep. Hey, no cuernis. No scrambling for distance. Just recognition. You okay? He asked, instantly alert. I nodded. Yeah, you. He exhaled a slow, thoughtful breath. Better than I expected. Worse than I planned. I snorted quietly. Same. We didn't touch right away. That felt important. This wasn't a rush back into each other situation. It was a figure-it-out moment. David sat up, elbows resting on his knees. We need to talk about what this means. I was hoping you'd say that, I replied. I won't pretend last night didn't happen, he continued. But I also won't pretend I don't have responsibility here. I studied him. You're not asking me to regret it. No, he said firmly. I'm asking you not to feel trapped by it. That hit deeper than anything he'd said before. What are you suggesting? I asked. For now, he said, choosing his words carefully, we pause. We don't escalate. We don't sneak around. We go back to work as professionals. I raised an eyebrow. And us? He looked at me then, really looked. We don't pretend there isn't something real here, but we give it space to exist without destroying either of us. I leaned back against the pillows. That's surprisingly mature of you. A corner of his mouth lifted. Don't get used to it. At the conference that day, the shift was unmistakable, but invisible to everyone else. David kept his distance. Neutral tone, professional gaze. But when I spoke, he listened like every word mattered. And when someone interrupted me during a panel, David cut in smoothly. Let Christopher finish. Not possessive, protective. That night, there were no texts, no knocks, just restraint. When we returned to the office the following week, the real test began. Whispers traveled fast in corporate spaces. Not about us, but about David. He's changing, someone said in the break room. Less aggressive, more deliberate. I almost laughed. Then came the email. HR request. Meeting department structure review. David forwarded it to me with one line. We need to be careful. That afternoon, he called me into his office again. Door open this time. HR's reviewing management conduct across departments, he said. Routine stuff, but timing matters. I crossed my arms. They don't know about us. They don't, he agreed, which is why they won't. He paused. But if this ever becomes something more real, public, I won't let it start with imbalance. My heart skipped. What are you saying? I'd step back, he said. Transfer, reassign, whatever it takes. I stared at him. You do that? Yes. The word landed solid and unwavering. For the first time, I understood something fundamental. David didn't want power over me. He wanted me, without conditions. And that changed everything. The tension didn't break all at once. It unraveled slowly. After the HR meeting notice, David became even more careful. Visible restraint layered over something quieter and heavier. He stopped lingering after meetings. No late-night emails. No unnecessary check-ins. But every time our eyes met across a room, it felt deliberate, like we were both counting steps, not toward each other, but toward a decision. 2 weeks later, David called an all-hands meeting. Not unusual. What was unusual was the presence of someone from senior leadership sitting in the corner, arms crossed, observing. I felt it immediately, the shift in the air. David stood at the front of the room, composed as ever. I'll keep this brief, he said. Effective next month, there will be a departmental restructure. A murmur rippled through the room. My role will change, he continued. I'll be stepping into a regional position. Oversight only. Day-to-day leadership will transition to a new department head. My stomach dropped. This was it. He glanced at me. Just for a second. I recommended Christopher for the role. The room went silent. I felt like the floor tilted beneath me. What? Someone whispered behind me. David didn't look at me again as he continued. Christopher has consistently demonstrated leadership, strategic thinking, and integrity. I trust him. The meeting ended in a blur of congratulations, shocked expressions, and hands clapping me on the shoulder as people filtered out. I didn't move. David waited until the room was empty before turning to me. You didn't warn me, I said, voice low. I knew you'd say no, he replied. You took yourself out of power. I moved myself away from you, he corrected. There's a difference. I stared at him. You did this because of us. I did this because of me, he said. Because I don't want the best thing I've felt in years to be something I have to control. Silence settled between us, no longer charged, just heavy with truth. You're free now, he added. No pressure, no liberty. If you walk away, I'll respect it. My chest tightened. And if I don't? His voice softened. Then we start something honest. I laughed quietly. You really changed. He smiled. So did you. That night, we didn't meet secretly. We walked into a bar together like two men who didn't owe anyone an explanation. No hiding, no glances over shoulders. Just choice. Later, as we sat side by side, David leaned in and said quietly, You know, you were never just my rival. I met his gaze. Yeah, I know. The secret that once scared me no longer had teeth. The rivalry that defined us was gone. And the man who used to stand opposite me, he'd chosen to stand beside me instead.